Okay, because passive voice is one of the most difficult grammar concepts to grasp, let's go over this together, page 14. The top, active voice is more direct and concise than passive voice, but both are okay to use. In fact, sometimes you have no choice but to use passive voice because you don't know who the subject is. You don't know who the doer is. That's a key word here, is doer. Who's doing the verb? If the person or thing doing the verb is not in the subject slot or is not even there, that's passive voice. Let's take a look. Here's a sentence in active voice. The sponsor repeated the validation study. Notice the syntax there. English syntax is nothing more than the order we place words in a sentence to make sense out of our world and talk about our world. In English, that syntax is subject, verb, direct, object. If you were born in Rome in 500 AD and spoke Latin, that syntax would be subject, direct, object, or direct, object, subject, and 90% of the time the verb would be at the very end of the sentence. That syntax is completely different. But notice, the subject, verb, direct, object, the English syntax, if you're a native English speaker, you've been hearing that syntax since a baby in the cradle, people talking to you, right? Subject, verb, direct, object. And then as you grew up, you wrote and spoke with subject, verb, direct, object. My point here is that when you subvert that, when you put the direct object first and the subject later, it causes your brain to have to do a couple more synapses to make sense out of that. The bottom line with why writers prefer active voice to passive voice is that active voice is more immediate comprehension. Listen to this. Let's read that active sentence again. The sponsor repeated the validation study. Here's the passive rewrite of that. The validation study was repeated by the sponsor. You see your brain kind of going, you know, there's not immediate comprehension there. Yes, you understand that sentence because you read passive voice all the time. But that's the bottom line for preferring active to passive is immediate comprehension. That's the explanation. And then the third example there, the validation study was repeated. We don't know who did it. So we have to use passive, and that's just fine. Spotting passive voice is very difficult because in passive voice, when you have a direct object in the subject slot, it's a noun, right? And you're taught noun verb is subject verb combination. But no, if it's a direct object in the subject slot, that's different, okay? And that can throw you off. So here's a simple two-step process to spot passive construction in any sentence. Number one, identify the verb. Then ask who or what is doing the ing form of the verb. You have to make that super clear, the ing form of the verb. For example, in the sentence, the vial was broken by the technician. Ask who or what did the breaking? And the answer is the subject, the technician. If you did not do step number 2 correctly and you asked who or what was broken, you come up with the wrong answer. You come up with vial, and that is not the subject. So make sure that you do step number 2 correctly and ask the ing form of the verb. Once you spot passive construction, converting it to active is quite simple. You simply come up with a subject, make one up if there isn't one there, or put the subject in the subject slot, and you're done.